Hi. So I'm Julian Cheal. I'm a Ruby developer. I'm from a small town in England called Bath. So so you know, Bath is not London. I don't live in London. I live in a city called Bath. This is where we invented bathing and baths, and so you're more than welcome to come. I will bring you round. We get to go here. We can then go to the thermal spa. We can have a wonderful time. So please come to Bath. Bring us your tourist money. So I work at a small company called Red Hat that got bought by a slightly bigger company called IBM, but I still work at Red Hat. So I'm sure the PR marketing people are going to be upset the way I've put the logos like this, but I like it. So I really love robots and robotics. And this lady I'm a big fan of, her name's Simone, and she makes, pardon her French, what she calls shitty robots. And she's really good at making these robots. So here's an example of her. She's made a robot to help make her breakfast so she can carry on reading her book. Because no one's got time to, make your own breakfast cereal. I mean, just look how well that worked. So if you go check her out on YouTube, she's Simone Yitz, I think that's how you pronounce her last name. She's amazing. She makes all sorts of great robots. So I was thinking about this. I was like, I'd like to make my life a little bit easier. What things could I automate or use robotics for? Then I remembered I like drinking. Maybe I was drinking when I thought this, and I was like, I'm onto something here. And I also really like cocktails. But the thing I like more than cocktails is this bar in Bath called The Hideout. Shout out to The Hideout. I've got their little pin badge here. So if you're ever in Bath, I'll take you to The Hideout. So the great thing is the bar staff here make the most amazing cocktails. They've won awards. They're really, really talented and knowledgeable. But the problem is, as much as I ask them, none of them will come to my house and make me cocktails on demand. So I was thinking, how can I solve this problem? And I'm like, wait, I'm an engineer. I watch Simone's YouTube videos where she makes awful, terrible things. Like she turned a Tesla Model 3 into a truck, and it's called Truckula. You have to watch the video. It's amazing. So I thought, what can I do? I know I will use the power of robots and cocktails to make robotic cocktails. That can't go wrong in any way. Because at home, I have tons of Raspberry Pis. They're just absolutely everywhere. Like, we use them in the house, so I've automated all of our light switches, because we've got the smart RGB LED lights. And of course, when you turn them off at the mains, you then can't use Alexa to turn them off and on again. So I've ripped out all of the light switches, replaced them all with Raspberry Pis, and so now when people come over, they're like, hey, the lights aren't working. I'm like, wait a minute, I just got to go reboot System D. Don't you worry, the lights will be back with us soon. So I have lots of Raspberry Pis. And then I was thinking, well, okay, so I've got Raspberry Pis. I work at Red Hat. I know OpenShift and containers a little bit. Maybe I could combine these two. Work would be really happy. But then I remembered that OpenShift doesn't run on the Raspberry Pi. So I was like, Kubernetes on itself runs on the Raspberry Pi. It's kind of similar. So maybe if I took Raspberry Pi, Kubernetes, and then I was like, well, what language should I write my cocktail robot in? And I was like, well, obviously Ruby. You can see how happy Mats is that I'm going to be writing this in Ruby. And then I thought, wait, if I make a cocktail robot in Ruby using a Raspberry Pi, then I can give a talk about it at RubyConf. And then you'll all come and listen to it. And I was like, that's a great idea. So we've got a plan. So just to recap, I've got a Raspberry Pi, Ruby, and Kubernetes. But I'm thinking, this is a project, it's missing something. It's not enough to get you all to come and watch me as opposed to somebody else. And then I thought, I know, Kafka. But the problem is, I don't know anything about Kafka. But luckily, Stella Cotton knows everything. And so I went and searched for previous Ruby and Rails conferences, and I found this great talk by her where And I basically felt in this situation, like, you've got yourself a Kafka, now what do you do? And I'm like, tell me, please. So I watched her talk, and I knew everything. I'm ready to go and apply for jobs, do an enterprise-grade Kafka. I'm now a Kafka expert, as you will see if this works later. So I was like, cool, got a plan now. Everything is going swimmingly. So then I went back to the hideout, and I was telling them, like, hey, so I've come up with this idea. I'm going to make a cocktail robot. It's going to make all my own drinks that I want whenever I want. It will never get tired. You don't have to pay it tips. It doesn't have to work overtime. And they were all looking at me going like, so you're going to make something that's going to put us out of a job. And I'm like, oh, yeah, this whole automation thing, robots, I don't want to put people out of a job. And I was telling them all the technology I'm using, and they didn't really understand what half of it was. And then I was like, have I made something Kafka-esque by making a cocktail robot that's going to put people out of work? I don't know, but it doesn't matter, because it's not going to be as good as they are. Anyway, it hasn't won any awards yet. OK, so I went to go and install Kubernetes on the Pi, and you can totally install the full big bang Kubernetes, but it's too big, because Kubernetes gets abbreviated to K8s. Well, there's something much better for the Raspberry Pi and small IoT devices by this company called Rancher, and it's called K3s. So it's like Kubernetes, but just 5 less. It's really cool. And the great thing is, I found this blog post by Alex Ellis called Will It Cluster? Kubernetes on Your Raspberry Pi. And so I followed through his tutorial, and he's actually made a tool which makes this a lot easier. So I grabbed my Raspberry Pi. So those of you who don't know, which you should do if you were at Colleen's talk just now. It's a small powered computer made by a company in the UK. It's great for teaching kids programming. You can put Sonic Pi on it and make music. You can make monstrosities like this. It's kind of really cool. And I realized my slides are out of order. That's it. So anyway, so I took my Raspberry Pi, and I was like, what else do I need to make my cocktail robot? Well, I need things called peristaltic pumps. So they look like this, and then on the robot, they look like this. And you might be thinking, what is that? Well, it's a kind of pump with a motor that causes suction, so it forces the liquid to come through. And you may recognize them. It's basically what powers your Nespresso coffee machine. It's what makes that noise. I think that was a good impression. Yes, thank you. so you find them in everyday things like coffee machines, dialysis machines, cocktail robots. And so I've got Raspberry Pi, I've got some peristaltic pumps. And I thought, well, the way I can control the pumps is by switching them off and on. So this is a relay. So it's just like an electrical switch, but you can control it with code. So you could have one of these plugged into your oven at home, so you could text your Raspberry Pi, and it would turn your oven on ready, and then you get home and your house is burnt down, so don't do that. That's a bad idea. So anyway, I hope you can read this. These are the steps to make a drink. These are the steps that I decided this is how my robot's going to do it. So I've built a UI. That's going to send a request to a bar manager. It's a very, very multiple people are going to be working inside this cocktail robot bar. And so it sends a drink request to the bar manager. The bar manager then tries to find a mixologist. So someone told me I should call it a mixer bot, but my version was calling these mixologists. So this thing itself is a mixologist. And it tells it which drink to make. And then it updates the UI and says, I found the drink for you. I've assigned it to this mixologist. Then this mixologist, if it's got the capacity, so if it's got the drinks that you require, if it's not already too busy, it will add that drink to its queue, update the UI, eventually make the drink, and tell the UI that the job is finished. So this all sounds like kind of just normal everyday programming, right? With message queues and updating things. And I'm like, yeah, this is cool. I've learned something while making alcohol drinks that I can apply to a real world job in an interview. Be like, oh yeah, so I totally Kafka-risked and sent messages and things, so cool. So anyway, back to lightweight Kubernetes. So I'm using K3s, and there's this really cool tool called, I think it's K3s up, but I think K3 sup is a much better name. So you use K3 sup, and you give it the IP address of your Raspberry Pi, and it goes and downloads Kubernetes for you, installs it, sets it all up. And if you want to add more nodes to your Kubernetes cluster, you can just call join with the new server that you want to add to it, and then the master server. And it's all really, really cool and simple, and it's just like 2 lines to run on the terminal. So what have we got? We've got hardware, we've got Kubernetes, we've got Ruby, and then, of course, obviously, I needed to use Rails, too, to make a big, nice UI front end. So we're getting all the technologies here. So just before I go on to this slide, I shall show you. So here we have my Kubernetes cluster running on. So I've got 2 Raspberry Pis. I've got one in the robot itself, and then one here that's running the kind of Kubernetes main controller. So as you can see, we've got these 2 nodes. If we were to actually look at one, you can see that it's super happy. It's got tons of cores and loads of memory. We're running Postgres and some other cool things. So it's all really, really nice and easy to set up. And then you're at Kubernetes, where it's really complicated. So good luck with the next bit. So we've got our Rails app, which we'll see in a bit. And then in order to talk to Kafka, in the talk that I mentioned earlier, there was these 2 Ruby gems, which are really, really great. There's Race Car, which I imagine is some kind of DHH-themed name of a gem. And so that's just a consumer, so that will absorb all of the Kafka messages. And then we've got another one which publishes Kafka messages called Delivery Boy. Why someone's made 2 gems when we could just have 1 gem that does both, I don't know. But these are really cool and really simple. And then I thought, well, if I'm going to have all this message and stuff, why not have a state machine too? Because you don't want the drink to be trying to make it when you've not ordered it. That would just be some timey-wimey thing. And so obviously adding in a state machine would make things much easier, because that would not go wrong at all, right? OK. That is the end of the slide, so let's go have a look what we've done. So I will admit, I spent all this time learning how to do Kubernetes, how to deploy Rails and Ruby apps, but I decided that it would be too crazy to actually try and run a demo on Kubernetes. So you had to watch all of that bit where you learned about it, and I'm not even using it in the demo, just except to show you that you can run Kubernetes on your Raspberry Pi really, really easily. OK, so this is the UI that we've made. Hope you can see it. It might be a bit dark, sorry. So as you can see, let's make this bigger. I've already sold 134 cocktails. I've made $1,500. I didn't add this data myself. This is all totally legit. And so I can imagine a scenario where like people would be walking around with their iPads in a bar, and they'd be like, oh, I'd like a gin and tonic. And they just press the gin button, and then magically gin and tonic appears. So we've got an array of different drinks that we can have, and like got this admin UI. It's not running the Rails app. That would be, there you go. There you go. You've got this admin UI, which you'd all know from Rails, where you can add new drinks and stuff like that. And then we got a list at the bottom that shows us which drinks we've ordered. So through all of this, I've installed Kubernetes. I've built a Rails app with this really nice, shiny UI that you do this, and it all changes. And I was like, wow, that's fancy. But really, you came here to find out how cocktails are made. And it turns out that in order to control these pumps with a Raspberry Pi library called Raspberry Pi IO, GPIO, letters, you only need like these 20 lines of code. And so all this does is it takes a pin. So on the relay, there's different pins. So you take that and you tell it to turn on. So that turns so there's a power supply back here. That turns the power supply on for one of these pumps, and then turns it on for a bit. It sleeps for the duration. So the duration is like how much liquid you want. And then it turns it off again. So yeah, you only need this code. But why do that when you can, as I say, do Kafka and Kubernetes and all these other things? So what we do, when we add a drink to the queue, so by clicking one of these, which we'll do in a moment, Delivery Boy takes this and sends it to the bar queue. And if we look at the model, this is the model I was explaining with the active state machine. So you can see that the initial status is a drink is being queued, and it can go to in progress, or you can delete the job. And then when it's been allocated, it can only go through there from being queued, and then it goes to in progress, and then it can be deleted, and then it can be finished. And so this is all kind of really nice. And then we also have the consumer that then reads messages off the queue to find out the current status from the bar bot. And so that's just the world's simplest sort of case statement that is like, when something's been allocated, change its state to allocated. And if it hasn't done any of those things, then I don't know. Okay, so that's super cool. So you're wondering, like, okay, so you're all getting really thirsty now. I know you want drinks, but like, how do we tell the robot what drinks to make? Well, that's really simple. We use YAML. So we define in YAML the different drinks. We've got gin and tonic, a Tennessee two-step, a Tennessee sour, an old-fashioned, a citrus peach cooler for the non-drinkers around. And you just list the ingredients, and then these numbers are how long, are in milliliters, and then we do a calculation which works out how many seconds that should go to be how many milliliters. And so the pumps know what the ingredients are, and they know which ingredient they have, so they know which one to make for you. And then we have some additions, say like Angostura bitters or sugar. That isn't automated yet. That's something I still have to do, and putting ice in I have to do as well. So it's not completely 100% yet, but maybe one day we'll have a nice big ice hopper that will just drop ice into a glass, and then we'll be fully on our way. So this is, everyone knows YAMLs. This is nice and easy-ish to do. And then the same thing for the pumps as well. You can see pump 1, it has gin, so it knows if it needs to make gin, that pump 1 is the pump to do that, and pump 2 is for tonic, and so on and so forth. So that's kind of, I think, kind of not too complicated, except for my whole management hierarchy, where we have the Mixolator that is the class that gets called to make a drink. That then calls the bartender manager, whose job is to find a mixologist robot that's currently available and free. As I said, with various metrics like, are you currently making a drink? Do you have enough stock available? So all of that sounds really complicated. So at the moment, I've just put a to-do item in to implement that. So currently, it just returns true. And then that talks to the pump manager, which just basically then loops through the ingredients list. If you need to make a gin and tonic, it finds the constitute ingredients. So it finds gin. It goes, gin is on pump number 1, tonic is on pump number 2, and then it tells the pump to pour. That should be. It tells the pump to pour for the necessary time from the exact pump that we need. So the only problem with this, the quick of you in the audience will notice that this loop is going to go through and it's going to pour the first thing, so say like gin, then it's going to wait like 30 seconds, and then once that's finished, it's then going to go and put the tonic in. And then, that's kind of how like a bar person makes a drink, but there's like 5 pumps on here. It could totally put 5 ingredients in at the same time. So I tried to make this with threads so it could do multiple things at once. You know where this is going, don't you? But then what happened was, not only, because they weren't running when I expected them to, which who'd have thought threads would run whenever they wanted, I was making like a gin and tonic, but with gin and whiskey, because like whiskey was on its queue. It didn't realize that there was this subset of drinks that it can't mix with all the other ones. So if anyone knows how to do threading properly to make a cocktail robot, that would be really, really good. Okay, shall we see if this actually works? Okay. Right, so got our Rails UI running here. Let's just double check everything's running. And then, let's start the drink orderer, which is the race car plugin. Then, if we go over to our Raspberry Pi, and we run Ruby. Run Mixologist, and we get some nice logs. Oh, why is that broken? Failed to find coordinator. We have a problem already. Okay. Brew services, start Kafka. Kafka's on. Well, that's all right. Sorry. If anyone wants to know how to debug code, then let's see. Yeah. Oh, tests. That's what I forgot. Okay, let's do this as a group effort. So let's just make sure. So the problem is I've hard-coded everything. So there's my IP address. So I need to make sure that all the config files, maybe if we, see, that should work. But oh, now it's working. Look, even says vroom. But with a W, I don't know. Okay, right. Where were we? Okay, and then we ran the, let's close this. So, okay, we're on the Raspberry Pi, blah, blah, blah. Oh, no. Why error timed out? Okay, let's just be really quick. Oh, I know, wait, maybe it's because there's no drinks. Okay, let's add a drink. So if we add a gin and tonic, we will see. Went in for localhost? Come on. You know it totally worked earlier, right? Talk amongst ourselves. Okay. Okay, right, let's start that again. Rails S. Oh yeah, so we've got a gin and tonic here, and it's queuing, so it's on the queue. So, oh, I know what it could be, because I'm running on the Wi-Fi, and I bet it's, even though I'm using it all locally, I blame the Wi-Fi, right? No Kafka connection. Okay. Okay, quick, let's reset Kafka. So brew services, restart stopping Kafka might take a while. Okay, so while we're doing that, so I found this really useful app called Kafka Tool, which helps you kind of visualize all your different topics and queues. So that's kind of really cool, and it's free as well and open source. Okay, let's see. So the drink is queuing. No. Okay, I have a backup plan. Right, so message busing between these two is not working, so let's do some live coding. Okay, vim pumps, pump.rb. Right, okay, so I want to turn on pin number, wait, hang on, let's all do this together. So we all need to, okay, so if we look at the pumps file, we can see that gin is pin number 11 and tonic is pin number 12. Okay, remember those numbers, 11 and 12. Right, so if we then go down here, oh look, I have some code already neatly. So we need to pour pin number 11, So we need to pour pin number 11 first, right? Is that, okay, and let's try 50 seconds, and then let's see if, oh yeah, number 12, so let's do this for 70, and let's run this, see what this does. It might work, might not. Also, this is falling apart. Oh, shoot. There was water on the floor already, it wasn't me. Okay, right. So let's put these here, that there. If we run this, will it do something? Pump.rb. Oh, it's moving! It's sucking up gin! So I think the problem is, even though it's all running locally, I'm getting my IP address from, the ether, and so I think the problem is that there might be some kind of delay in the network. So pro tip, learn how to control Raspberry Pis with a power over Ethernet switch via your Mac without having to have IP address from elsewhere. Oh, quick. Hey. Okay, we're still, so the problem is, so if let's say you wanted like 50 ml of gin and 100 ml of tonic, as you can see, the tonic's going a lot slower because it's full of bubbles. So what you have to do is kind of measure and work out the viscosity of all of the different liquids, and if they've got bubbles, that causes you issues too. And so there's quite a lot of prep work before you get to start making your cocktail robot. But you might all be thinking, it's finished. So you might be thinking, this is a silly project. Like, okay, you learned some stuff, you got a Ruby talk out of it, and so you're like, but what actual benefits to the world does this have? Well, I think you'll find, when we were out the other night here in Nashville, I bumped into a guy. It was his wedding day, so I was having a nice chat with him. Congratulations on your wedding. He was like, so what do you do? And I'm like, oh, I'm here for a conference. I've made a cocktail robot. And he's like, oh, really? I'm a VC from San Francisco. I would really love to talk to you about your cocktail robot. So I gave him my email address. He's emailed me. And then he went off on his honeymoon. So you never know. I might be in San Francisco soon with this on like Y Combinator. Okay. Shall I risk trying this to see if it... Okay. Not enough tonic. Okay, yeah, so this is my cocktail robot. There was some code. I'm hoping maybe tomorrow lunchtime I can set it up outside, and then I've got some other drinks that it can make, like old-fashioned, straight just bourbon, straight gin. Yeah, so I don't really know if there's anything else you'd like me to say, but otherwise, thank you very much.